and I feel very good. I think that it was important for me to participate to this vote. Why? Because we are trying to protect our constitution.
On the second day of the national dialogue, a breakthrough of sorts was achieved. An agreement, delicate yet decisive, set the stage for a June election. However, the clock is ticking, and it's ticking loudly, as President Sall's mandate ends on the 2nd of April. And it is not clear whether such a date will appease the dissenters. The regional bloc ECOWAS has added its voice. Senegal, at this crucial juncture, balances on the edge of its democratic principles. The actions taken in the coming weeks will not only define the future of its leadership, but will also send ripples through the fabric of its society and perhaps set a precedent for democracy across the continent.
Well, there you heard our head of news department, Ade Drame, giving us that brilliant piece about the latest developments in Senegal, of course, including the dialogue convened by the president yesterday. And like I said, we are joined by our colleague Amadou Barry, and of course we have our other guest in the studio to help us discuss this issue. Amadou, you have heard from Mr. Ade's space, talking about 19 candidates were absent from this dialogue. 16 of the 19 rather, I beg your pardon. Yes, were absent from this dialogue. A good number. Who was there?
Yes, as you said, the most significant opposition was not represented. Instead of going to the dialogue in Jamnajo, they decided symbolically to go before the Constitutional Council and file a new appeal, to call the court, to react again, and this time to set a date according to the opposition. So only two candidates that validated their bid were there. That's Amadou Ba, that's the ruling coalition candidate, and the flag bearer of Benon Bokyaka, and Boun Abdallah John, former prime minister, and also a former close, associated with Macky Sall. So Idriss Seck was expected there because he was not among the candidates that came to the Constitutional Council to file an appeal. But after he reacted, and he said that he's not going to participate in this dialogue. So only two candidates, and of course others, that were not able to validate their bids during this process. And there were religious leaders, there were trade unions, but the most significant opposition, was not there. And in his speech, Macky Sall himself, yesterday, he seemed very, angry, and he showed a kind of frustration, because of this boycott from the opposition. So now the latest development here is they said from this dialogue, a date has been proposed. That's June 2nd. In almost 3 months' time, to hold this election. But it's yet to be confirmed, and Macky Sall, should adopt it by decree. But before that, he has to notify to the Constitutional Council. They are expected to react, to give, legitimacy, to this process now. And other information which is very relevant to me is, Macky Sall term is going to end on April 2nd. But according to this dialogue, to the dialogues, Macky Sall should stay in power till the election of his successor. That's a new development also, which is interesting. And another story also is Macky Sall is expected to stay in power till to the election of a new candidate, and the election here should be held before the rainy season. And of course, this is a religious leader. I mean, the event that should be after the Ramadan.
Okay. All right.
So that is it. But for now, I mean, the opposition is against. Of course, is against this decision.
Okay.
And the 19 candidates that have validated their candidacy, according to this conclusion, they should be kept. Other now that were not able to validate their bid, the dialogue, the commission is saying that we should scrutinize again, review their case each by each.
Okay.
So this may include involving Usman Sonko, who is in custody, and tomorrow is expected also an amnesty bill at the cabinet meeting that should be adopted and tabled before the National Assembly. And Usman Sonko, this may lead to the release of Usman. And of course, he may be in the race now, according to rumors and information. But nobody knows yet.
Amade, I'll come back to you. Let me just bring in my guest in the studio here. Let me now start with Mr. Dabo, who is a constitutional lawyer. I mean, Mr. Dabo, just tell us, I mean, your take, your reaction to all what is happening in Senegal as a lawyer. I mean, like Mr. Ade will put it, it's more like there's a institutional crisis. You have the National Assembly on this end, you have the Constitutional Council on this end. As a lawyer, what's your take?
Well, what happened in Senegal is quite disappointing.
Okay.
Because the elections were scheduled for the 25th of February. And we were all watching the space. And like most people, I didn't see any reason that convinced me that the president had the authority to cancel the elections that were scheduled. Because if he cancelled the February 25th elections as he did, obviously the time left between February 25th and now we are about to enter March, and the 2nd of February means that even the electoral deadlines would not have been met, because the elections had to take place at the very least 30 days before the expiry of the president's term. And that term expires on the 2nd of February. April. On the 2nd of April, yeah. Yes. On the 2nd of April, that term expires. So, what does he want to do now? Because there is no mechanism for him to continue. Once a president has been elected, he has to leave. But he cannot actually extend his mandate beyond the 2nd of April. Okay. The law does not permit him to do that. It's an imperative position as far as Section 31 of the Senegalese Constitution is concerned.
And Mr. Ali, let me just bring you here. I mean, you did that piece about the dialogue. I mean, it appears, I mean, a good number of the opposition candidates were not there. Yeah. In your opinion, do you think this was a successful dialogue?
No, one can hardly say that. And it's a curious situation because it was quite full, it was packed. Yeah. But if you knew the facts, then you would say it was empty because the most senior and sort of serious candidates were not there.
And from the background, it seemed like we had so many supporters. Anytime Macky speak, you hear them chant and clap.
Well, this is it. And I would take issue with what our colleague said, saying that he was angry. In fact, Macky Sall, if he was cracking jokes throughout.
Even talking about the media.
Yeah,
most
he
of
was
the big
not angry.
TVs are sending their crew in.
That's a misrepresentation. He didn't appear angry at all. He appeared quite relaxed, even though all these people were absent. And but you know, it cannot have any legitimacy, as I said, if those people were there. But having said that, it's a case of they want to have their cake and eat it. They don't want to come to the dialogue because they said they don't want to appear that he's pulling their strings. Okay. But if they had appeared, then perhaps they could have stated their case. So they can't have it both ways. They can't not turn up and then disapprove of whatever decisions are made. It's like you and I, if you don't turn up to an event and then you're waiting for the result of that event, the fact that you could have turned up and you didn't means you have to abide by whatever comes from it, because you weren't there to make your case. And so I'm afraid they've kind of shot themselves in the foot by that disapproval or refusing to turn up.
Mr. Mane, your take on all what is happening in Senegal, I mean, from this postponement of the elections by the president to what happened in parliament and everything surrounding the dialogue. I mean, your take.
Well, I thoroughly agree with Council Dawo here. Look, what Macky effectively has done, he has plunged his country into an unnecessary constitutional crisis. Unnecessary in the sense that it's very hard to discern his actions, what exactly is trying to gain from this. Because one, like he rightly put it, the constitutional mandate term is ending on April 2nd. Yeah. So it's like somebody with a 5-year mandate wants to extend it to 5.5 years or 6 years, whatever, when the Constitution says 5 years. That is unconstitutional, even by the look of it. Even a casual observer will know that. And the other thing is, if you read the happenings here, the jockeying and the shenanigans that are being deployed here, it's very, very difficult to really make sense of it. Because what set in motion this whole crisis was apparently Karim Wad's candidature being disqualified.
Yes.
Now, Karim, in fact, was accusing Maki's own candidate, Amadou Ba, of being the one who bribed the Constitutional Council to disqualify him. And Maki's actions seem to support Karim, because he's basically saying, let's go back and revisit all these decisions because this is not right, the people that have been disqualified. So he's going against his own candidate. And by doing so, he has given a lot of leverage to the opposition in many, many ways. Okay. And then he turns around and wants to extend the election date further down the road, technically giving himself even more time in office. Now, is this some sort of a self-serving move, or is he really, really trying to get things straight here? Because if he's trying to get things straight, then he's even creating more and more confusion. So I've been trying to read this whole thing, and it plays like a Roman type outfoxing, outmaneuvering one another kind of political scene, because it seems Macky created a problem. Now he's presenting himself as a solution. He's saying, here, okay, let's revisit this whole thing, and he creates a constitutional crisis. And then now he's presenting himself as the one with the solution for that crisis. And it doesn't make sense. And his solution happens to be, well, let's not do elections on the election day. Let's push it still down the road. The election date was set for February 25th. That is the election date that was set by the Constitutional Council. This is their job. Macky is not a referee, he's a player. Yeah. He cannot be in the field playing and then take the whistle from the referees and start blowing and making calling the shots. This is exactly what he's doing. So essentially, what I'm trying to understand is, what exactly is his end game? Because now, it almost seems as the days go by, that Macky seems to be speaking more and more the language of the opposition than his own side. And he's emboldening the opposition through his own actions. This is why they are saying, we are not going to meet with you. And even Karim Wade and his PDS folks are on the other side making a lot of noise. They are very confident. And weird enough, Pastef, Osman Sonko, is coming out as some sort of a hero in all this. And so, you again, with Osman being his chief enemy over there, and Osman has already been, the Constitutional Council basically did his job for him by disqualifying him. Now Macky is going to be the one to rescue Osman Sonko and make sure he can run. So it's very, very, very difficult to really, where does I put Amadou Ba, his own candidate? Is he undermining Amadou Ba? And why is he doing so? Why is he looking like he's speaking the same language with Karim Wade? And even Osman Sonko now. Could he potentially end up being friends with Osman and then Karim also looking like an ally of his. What exactly is Maki trying to do? Because if this is some kind of a ploy to keep himself in power by creating a sort of a confusion, and then all the players butting heads, because even within PASTEF itself, I mean, Jomai Faye was supposed to be the shoe-in for Osman Sonko. Yeah. If he pardons Osman Sonko, now Osman Sonko can run. Yeah. What kind of confusion is that going to create in PASTEF? So all these players seem to be jockeying, and it reminds me of, and I know Ade and Dabo are the historians here, but if you read Roman history, between Julius Caesar and Pompey Magnus and Crassus, this is the kind of playbook that everybody was deploying to outmaneuver one another. And this is what's happening in Senegal now. I don't know whether anybody could trust anybody in this moment, in this chaos. And because Maki wants to now come out the winner in all this, when all these people are fighting among themselves, butting heads, and then he looks like the guy with the solution. It's good so far that the opposition party, 19 parties, are speaking with one voice, even though they don't like each other. They are speaking with one voice. But he's looking to create a fracture in there too, by creating some sort of a confusion, because the opposition now is divided. Karim Wad on the other side, who's been disqualified, as opposed to these other ones here, our Sunni election folks on the other side. So the whole thing is a total chaos. I don't know. It's really is going to be interesting in the next few days to watch how this is all going to play out when the Supreme Court speaks, when the Constitutional Council speaks as to this new date that they are speaking about, the June 2nd, which is also unconstitutional. And to my mind, again, I'm not an expert. Lavin can help us with that.
Yes, Mr. Adi, you also come in.
I was going to say, actually, in the weird situation you have in Senegal, the Constitutional Court is effectively the Supreme Court as well. And they make the final decision, and the opposition are trying to throw it back into their but as Maki said yesterday and today at the National Dialogue, he said, I repeat, I would not stay beyond April the 2nd, but nobody's listening to him. And if you take out Ramadan, actually a June election is not that ridiculous. So I'm not sure why the opposition are rejecting a June election. And if he stays, to June, that's hardly forever. So all this stuff about he wants to stay forever, I don't get it. If they accepted a June date, then go for it. Take out Ramadan, where there'll probably be no campaigning anyway. Why not go for a June election date? And then the end of story.
Yes. Let me now bring in Amadou before I bring in Mr. Dabo here. Amadou, earlier on you said, at the dialogue we had two candidates, Amadou Ba, we had Bun Abdullah John, and of course you said there were some religious leaders and of course union leaders as well. Yes. Who said what and what?
Of course, in his camp, in Macky Sall camp, like from Bernard Bokeyaka and other allies, I can quote like the current, Labour Minister, Senegal's Labour Minister, Sambasi. Yeah. He highlighted, the consequences of, voting an amnesty bill in this country. He said clearly and loudly he's against it in front of Macky Sall. And he is currently a member of the Bokeyaka, but of course he is against this amnesty. And others also. We had the church, the Église here. Okay. They made it very clear. The Archbishop of Dakar was not there, but he's representative. And he made it very clear that the constitution should be respected. The constitutional calendar should be respected, and Macky Sall should not go beyond April 2nd. It was very clear. But I would like to answer to Mr. Adi what he said about Macky Sall yesterday perception. He appeared. In fact, he held two speeches. In French, he appeared, very, very free and very, democratic, But in Wolof, we had him speaking, another tone. What he said, I can quote. He said, "Doel nasi sek, sek." It means that, you know, it's over, it's over. You know, I'm fed up of all of this. He said it clearly in Wallace when he was asked, you know, what about, you know, maintaining his position until the election of his successor. He said, you know, the noise is too much and there's a lot of escalation. And he also answered international organization and international media. He said, you know, he does not deserve all this campaign. You know, is very unfair, and the way he's treated as dictator, he does not deserve that. He said it in Wallop.
Yeah, he said in English.
He did not understand that. But what about Sonko Basiri Chomai? Of course, Banka Mane talked about it. He is going also to franchise his camp. What is expected here? Because here is mainly said demand side. Basiru Moi Jomai, Jomai Moi Basiru. Basiru is Jomai, Jomai is Basiru. But if Usman Sonko is in the race now, you can imagine, and in power, there's no delegation, there's no procuration in power, and he would like to be in the game now, according to many information that we got. So you can imagine if he's today released and he's in the game, you can imagine even in his camp, there's, you know, there's not, you know, there's not an agreement on the issue. And what about Amadou Ba? That's the Benon Bokiaka flag bearer. Of course, today the perception here, you know, his candidacy is undermined, you know, and he has no chance to win here because, you know, his camp is very divided, and also what Macky Sall is doing is not helping him. So, but of course, yesterday he was in Jamnajo, and he said it also very clearly that, you know, he is for the respect of the constitution and the electoral calendar. So we are going to see what will happen tomorrow with the direction of the opposition, of course, from this new calendar that's been, you know, agitated from this, you know, dialogue. But of course, if this election is going to be pushed for 3 months, we don't know what they really say. But of course, if they are going to keep these 19 candidates that, you know, have been qualified according to the Constitutional Council, and if also to add other candidates, is going to create another tension here. And we have, you know, since Macky Sall declared election postponement, already 4 people have lost their lives. And let's not forget that. And there has been, you know, a nationwide protest here. And even today here in Dakar, there were a general nationwide strike that was planned. But of course, in Africa and Senegal, where the former sector is, you know, is the main activity from its citizens, it was not followed, unfortunately. And you know, many workers here say, you know, they are struggling to, you know, to make ends live, so they cannot follow this kind of, you know, process.
Okay.
It's unfortunate.
All right, Ahmad, let me just bring in the lawyer here, Lamin Dabo. I mean, earlier on, I mean, you said Macky doesn't have the powers to postpone the election, and his term effectively ends on 2nd April. As a lawyer, how do you think Senegal should now go about resolving this whole crisis?
Well, this is a new situation because the Senegalese constitution obviously caters for the possibility that the presidency can be vacant by resignation, by death, and by incapacity. The Senegalese constitution caters for that. So obviously, if that happens, the president who died or who resigned or who is incapacitated would have to be replaced by the president, or in Gambia here we would say the Speaker of the National Assembly. Yes, if that same fate happens to the Speaker of the National Assembly, then he'll be one of the vice presidents of the National Assembly in order of precedence. Yes. So, but as for a sitting president, what the Constitution envisaged is that elections would be held on time so that the normal succession can take place. The term of the Senegalese president, according to Section 27 of the Senegalese Constitution, is 5 years. Yes. So you are not permitted to go beyond that 5 years, because what Section 31 said, and this, of course, Macky tried to explain the other day, what Section 31 said is the ballot for the election of President of the Republic takes place 45 full days at most and 30 full days at least before the date of the expiration of the mandate of the President of the Republic in his functions. Macky said there is a difference between mandate and functions. That is complete nonsense. When you don't have the mandate, then you cannot function. There are no functions there. Yes. So that is the problem. What is envisaged outside these extraordinary situations where somebody resigned or died or is incapacitated, the Senegalese constitution lays the framework of the president leaving office on the day his successor is sworn in. When that happens, you leave office on that same day. So April 2nd, he cannot go beyond that. If he wants to, there is no mechanism for it to happen. But Macky himself acknowledged that. Was it yesterday? He said, like Mr. Drame said, he doesn't want to go beyond the 2nd of April. So the Constitutional Council can help him to resolve that situation. You created all these crises in your own country, and now you are going back to the Constitutional Council. In a way, the Constitutional Council also played a role, not as significant as that of Macky, but it played a role in the whole crisis, you know. And by not giving him a definitive date for the election to take place within his mandate. Yes, when this happened, when he said on the 3rd of February that he cancelled the elections, there was still ample time to do these elections. There was a lot of international pressure. Of course, we were all aware of the street action in Senegal. So, you know, and this is likely to continue. How do you run, how do you manage as chief executive of a country? How do you manage a country under this situation? What like Banker said, what does he want to achieve? I don't understand it.
I think that's
and Mr. Ade, do you think this will be the end to the protest and or that it comes with?
No, it won't. I think and I think Macky's legal advisors have something, they have questions to answer. Okay. Because in the 3rd of February speech, if anybody watches it, he said quite clearly, he said the same section of the Constitution which allows me to call an election by decree, allows me to call it off by decree. And he was wrong. And the Constitutional Court embarrassed him by showing him that actually he couldn't do that. But you're right, Mr. Dabo. You know, they should have not thrown it back in this. What they're worried about is the Constitution quite clearly states that the president sets the date for an election by decree. That is what the Constitution says. So all of those who are making the noise saying the Constitutional Council should set the date, the Constitution doesn't allow the council to set the date. It says quite clearly the president calls and sets the date. And so Macky has created this, and nobody really can understand why he's done it. Because as I said, if he stays until June, what time has that bought him? Yeah. And for what? To what end? You know, so there is confusion. And really, I heard the last night and early this morning, the opposition saying, you know, we've called this nationwide strike and we're going to bring the country to a halt. It was an embarrassment. It just did not happen. You contrast that with Guinea-Conakry, where the unions called an indefinite strike. They brought Guinea to a standstill yesterday. The streets were empty in every major city. These folks had kind of overestimated their power to call the people out in protest at this. It just simply did not happen. And people carried on their business as normal. And so dialogue is really what is needed.
And Banka, is it because such has never happened in the history of Senegal that they don't want to create any precedents where a president can just sit down and say, I have postponed the election, that the Senegalese are ready to put their lives on the line to protect their democracy?
I think back in 1967 or something like that. 1967, right? Like what exactly prompted Macky to do this? Because look, the Constitutional Council, their disqualification of Karim Wade actually was due to his dual citizenship.
Yes.
Okay, now, what they did their due diligence. They literally called the French authorities and said, hey, this guy here, has he renounced his French citizenship? And those guys said, well, the process is on, but he hasn't.
He's applied.
Yes, exactly, but it hasn't been finalized. Yeah, and they said, oh, okay, then you have not renounced your citizenship.
Right.
And this is how he was disqualified. Now, so that means they have done their homework and this is the right way to do it. Now, if that happens, your own candidate is excited about this, pushing for it, happy that this has happened, putting in motion the effort to now cement this whole idea that now Karim is out of the way, let's now build on that and make it happen. You'd from nowhere intervene and say, wait a minute, hold on. I want Karim back in the game.
Yeah, I mean, and the weird thing is, and we discussed this previously, and we said, like, why are you acting as Karim's lawyer?
Exactly.
Karim can make his own appeal.
It's more like a movie now.
Weird.
He can
it's more like a movie.
He can make his own appeal against what he might think
Exactly.
is unfair,
Yeah.
and he then produced a certificate saying, look, yes, I had applied, but by that date I haven't, but now it has been. The French have granted me the possibility of renouncing my citizenship.
Yeah.
But why is Macky Sall acting as his lawyer when he has his own lawyers
Undermining his own candidate.
who can fight his own case?
Exactly.
It was really bizarre.
Yeah, so anyway, it is how, for me, every day I keep trying to study this situation, trying to read Macky's actions and see what's the end game. What exactly is he trying to do? Because when he came out even and said, don't worry guys, by April 2nd my mandate ends, so I'm out. I said, okay, so what exactly is this all about then? Why not hold the election and you get out of the way? But now, essentially, what he could potentially do is to create a real bad situation. When I say chaos, real chaos now is about to happen. Because you see, the moment he gives these guys amnesty, Usman Sonko and Faye, what's his name?
Not
Jomai, Setijan Faye. Is it? Yeah, Setijan Faye. Setijan Gay. Those are the two that are in prison right now.
We have so many people in prison.
No, but these are the leaders.
Potential presidential candidates.
No, the one of them are in prison. But then, once he gives this amnesty now, and potentially what that could do is it could also allow this guy more time, Karim, to sort himself out and now be in the race. Because Macky really, it looks like he wants all these guys in the race now. As far as when he talks, that's how he's beginning to sound. He's like saying, look, I want a level playing field. I want everybody that can run to run. So that let's just have after the elections, we don't have people coming out and saying...
Let me help you with that. Karim has come out in the last couple of days and said exactly that. He said if these people are released, his case should be reconsidered and he should be reinstated. So he's already said it publicly.
So it's even going to be more chaos. Now, what essentially that will do is, within PASTEF, it will create a tension. Because now Jomai has to step back and allow Karim in. But is that something that PASTEF will be willing to, some factions of PASTEF will be willing to do? Because these guys are shooing already. Could that create a problem over there? And then you turn out within the opposition itself, now all of them are going to be going at it because some will be in that these guys don't want to be in. They will think that's unfair. Even Usman Sonko's candidacy will be opposed by these other candidates on this side. So now the opposition among themselves will be fighting. Amadou Bah, on the other hand, who is literally scared of both Sonko and Wade, now has these two guys now in the race. So how does he feel Macky? How will he feel about Macky on that? I don't know. So in the end, it could create even more chaos and more problems than the solution that he's, well, supposedly crafting on his end. You see, and it was all unnecessary. He just had to let the process be the way it was. Yeah. The ones that were disqualified by the Constitutional Council be disqualified. The ones that, and their decisions were rock solid. If you look at it, even with Osman Sonko's case, I mean, you can blame the politically motivated court system, what the charges. But for them, the rules that they applied in his disqualification are actually constitutional. Those were, what he was charged with and convicted of. If you are convicted of those kinds of things, then you cannot run for the presidency. So, but Macky is now at war with the same Constitutional Council that he is now needing to actually help rescue him from this situation. So, not a day goes by that I don't scratch my head asking, what exactly is Macky trying to do? Is he confused? Is he trying to create chaos so that at the end of the day, he comes out everybody will run to him and say, oh, hail Macky, you go ahead and be the president for now until when we sort ourselves out. I don't know.
Exactly. Let me now bring in Amadou Barry. Amadou, I mean, you are apart from banker, Mr. Dabo, and of course, Mr. Drame. Do you have the same feelings, or are Senegalese also having the same feelings about what they're saying here? Regarding the tactics, the game Macky is trying to play in this whole situation.
Yes, I see it differently.
Okay.
Macky Sall is acting this by opportunism. He is helping Karim Wade because, as maybe you may know, his candidate, Amadou Ba, there was, according to information that we got, survey that we conducted here, Amadou Ba, if he goes, to this election, he would lose, of course. And of course, it would be more shameful for the ruling party, to lose before in front of a Plan B candidate. That's my way. And he was almost not known here. He's not a household name either. He's been in jail for over 1 year now, almost 1 year since April last year. So challenging this, judges, last year. He's in jail, and in his plan, according to information in Macky Sall, plan, he was not, expected to qualify for this presidency. So when he was qualified, the game, can we imagine a replaced candidate, defeat the ruling party? You can imagine, and for Macky Sall. So Macky Sall was doing this to have more time, and of course, to give the opportunity, like for Ousmane Sonko and for Karim Wade, to run for this presidency. If Karim Wade runs in this presidency, it will change a lot, because his party is very popular here, particularly in some neighborhood like in Tuba. And if also Ousmane Sonko is in the game, this will change a lot, and this may be divided the opposition. So this postponement, has helped Macky Sall, maybe, or may help Macky Sall to change maybe, things. And for Amadou Ba, may also benefit from, votes from PDS of Karim Wade, because Benno has backed his party in this battle. Before National Assembly in the Commission of Inquiry, as you may know, the Benno Bokyaka lawmakers help PDS in the battle. And if Karim Wade is going to run for this election, probably PDS will back Benno Bokyaka, and it's a plus for them.
Okay. Let me know.
Yes. Also, you can understand, the position of Macky Sall in that it can explain
Let me now bring in Mr. Dabo here, the lawyer. The issue of this dual citizenship. Even in the Gambia, if you want to contest for the presidency, you have to. If you hold a dual nationality, you have to renounce one. We saw in the last election where a particular candidate, was in the process. I'm not sure whether he actually completed the process of renouncing his citizenship in another country. But in your own perspective, do you think this is a law that we should really look into? I mean, yesterday I was following the dialogue and I had someone, raise the issue of this dual nationality. Like, how many people will like to have their wives delivered in maybe France or US, yet they will want to come back and contest for presidency?
If you want to your child to be an American citizen, obviously that is a possibility, and that is unlikely to affect your own situation unless, of course, you are a dual national yourself. In the case of Karim Wade, if at the time the Constitutional Council was approving candidates, if he was indeed a dual national at the time, then obviously he was disqualified by Section 28 of the Senegalese Constitution. It says clearly you must have exclusive Senegalese nationality. In other words, you cannot have the citizenship of any other country. Yes. So these things do happen. These things do happen. If the Constitution says this is the law, then that is the law. Yes.
Mr. Ade?
Yes, I mean...
Do you think it is something that we should look into? I mean, we have so many Gambians who are born in the West.
I was going to say...
hopefully one day they want to come back and lead the country.
No, I was going to say it will be revisited as it's been revisited in Sierra Leone. Because believe it or not, it's always been there in the constitution of Sierra Leone. But the only time it was invoked was as recently as 6 years ago, when they found that 25 sitting MPs were dual citizens. They all lost their seats and could not recontest unless they renounced citizenship. And people were shocked that when they looked back, there had been several who had been dual citizens, but the Electoral Commission had not been diligent enough. In fact, it was out of spite that somebody actually named all of them. Not because somebody at the Electoral Commission, but they all lost their seats. In Cape Verde, which is our neighboring country, more than half of the cabinet have dual citizenship because the country allows them to, because they know, as we know, as been stated many, many times, it's the only country which has more of its citizens outside than in the whole of Africa. And so a lot of them are dual citizens of either Portugal, Spain, or Italy in the main, and some Americans. But they are allowed to hold both. And the country has not suffered for it. And in Sierra Leone now, they've revoked that law because it disadvantaged the country. There are many people who...
Mr. Mani?
I think because of our reality, you see, you do these things based on reality of the situation. And I totally agree with Ade on this. Look, I mean, and I hear it in the Gambia here a lot. If you want to be president, you cannot be a citizen of another country. And I'm sitting there thinking, why should we narrow the pool down? Why not widen it? Because with our case, because of our reality, most of the Gambians here that are educated either had to travel out and get their education. Just now, when did we have it in university? Very, very recently. So that means every Gambian that has gotten a master's degree or bachelor's degree in this country had to go out of this country and study outside. And what that tends to do is when you move, especially to Europe or to America and many of these places, you kind of establish yourself over there, but not still losing your roots. And so somehow using citizenship, dual nationality as some sort of a criteria for loyalty or this, that, and the other, I think it's totally flawed. Because when you look back at our struggle for from the clutches of dictatorship that we had here before, during that fight, you couldn't tell who was dual national and who was who didn't have a dual nationality. Gambians are both abroad and in the Gambia equally fought together, hand in glove, and did what they had to do. And then at that time, there was no talk of dual nationality or to question the loyalty of those Gambians who were fighting that fight. But all of a sudden, the moment the Ajami is gone, oh, now we cannot have dual nationality because you don't know their loyalty, we don't know how to... I was sitting there going, but the diaspora, with all the effort that they made, with all the fight, and even some died, some were incarcerated, some lost everything. People like Dabo here sacrificed everything. You turn around and you say to him, well, because you have dual nationality, you don't deserve to be president of this country.
I mean,
when he's based on what? he was more royal, he sacrificed more than you, but somehow that technicality is what I call it. Yeah. Somehow disqualifies man, qualifies you. I think we need to do away with this, because what we need to do is, we need the diaspora to fully engage in all spheres of this country, whether political, social, civil, economic. I can go through a list. Every facet of medical, and because that the talent pool that is out there is incredible. Incredible. When we sort of broaden the net, so that we can get as many in as possible to participate in the process, it's going to enrich it. It's going to help us be able to sort of bring ideas from all corners of the world, best practices, import them from everywhere. I know we are allergic to outside ideas here. When you say, no, this is not about you. America, America that you hear about, all the development you see in America was brought in by immigrants. People from who came literally from immigrants and children of immigrants, because they allowed ideas from everywhere in the world. And today, Elon Musk is from South Africa, who is the richest man over there. I can go through a list. And these people brought their technology and all these great ideas, and they helped build America to what it is. America can't afford to say, look, you cannot be a dual national, or you have to be a natural born citizen to become president, because the talent pool already is there.
Yes,
but Gambia cannot afford to do that. So,
okay. Yes,
I'm glad you brought the topic up, because it affected me personally.
Right.
When my party was relieved of his portfolio as interior minister, I was offered interior, but I didn't want to be dishonest about it. So I told the people who are between me and the appointee that I'm a British citizen.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. So I went to the Supreme Court to challenge that dual nationality. Right. But, you know, the Supreme Court said I had no jurisdiction, because these are intra-constitutional clauses. Even if they conflict, you know, the Supreme Court cannot do anything about that. Right. So it's in the Constitution, Section 71(2), if you are a dual national, you cannot be a cabinet minister. Yeah. Section 91, if you are a dual national, you cannot be a National Assembly member. I bet there are people in the cabinet and in the National Assembly who are dual citizens. Yes, no doubt about it.
And for me, Gambia, least of all, should be a country applying that. If you go back to 2020, even the World Bank was shocked that after COVID, where every country in Africa, remittances had gone down, Gambia was the only country that had gone up. And not only that, look at the size of Gambia. And yet, out of 54 countries in Gambia, in Africa, I beg your pardon, Gambia was 9th for remittances. $587 million through official means were remitted to Gambia. Many of those people remitting were dual citizens. Are you telling me I can give you more than you would ever get in aid? And people say, we're propped up by aid. No, we're not. Remittances outstrip aid 20 to 1 or more annually, you know, and yet those people cannot, you know. So it's in some countries, this was brought after independence. In Sierra Leone, I'll give you the perfect example. John Akka, man who wrote the words to our national anthem. A year after Sierra Leone became independent, imagine the person who wrote our national anthem, because he was of Lebanese ancestry, and there was this fear that the Lebanese were taking kind of too much control. There's a clause in the Sierra Leone constitution, which I can tell you is the only constitution in the world that has a clause. You know what it says? To be elected, to hold elected office in Sierra Leone, you have to be of pure Negro African blood. That is in our constitution. And it was inserted a year after election. John Akka took that case all the way to the Privy Council in 1969, and he won. And guess what? When Sierra Leone became a republic, they reinserted that clause, because then you couldn't take it to the Privy Council.
Interesting. Amadou, let me now bring you back again. I mean, like you said, I mean, looking ahead to June for the election, the president's mandate ends on 2nd April. Do you think this is going to resolve all what we are seeing in Senegal, the dialogue and everything? Do you think it's going to be an end to the daily protests and everything surrounding this crisis?
Thank you very much. Interesting debate about the dual citizenship.
Yeah.
Maybe before answering the question, even in Senegal, I would like to say it was brought, back by Abdoulaye Wade. So, Karim was, father. So, in Senegal, if you remember, the former, the first president, and Abdou Diouf, all of them, held, French citizenship.
Okay.
So it was not an issue here,
Exactly.
but it was, reinstated, by Abdoulaye Wade in the 2021 constitution.
And his
And
son.
now
That
the
it
same
should
law
be
is now
within.
hunting his son.
His son.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Quite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see,
Quite.
it's ironic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite.
It's very ironic. So today, according to Section 68 of the Constitution, to be a candidate here, you have to be exclusively Senegalese national. Interesting. So answering to your question is very uncertain, Aliu, and there's no clarity to say, this is going to be, sorted out, before this June 2nd. We don't know. We don't know. Is the Constitutional Council going to legitimize, this process, adopted by the national dialogue? We don't know. There's an uncertainty, and as I said earlier, the 17 or 16 that's called here FC25, is the candidate that were qualified by the Constitutional Council. All of them have filed yesterday a request before the Constitutional Council, calling the court, to set a date. So the boycott is dialogue. What would be their reaction? We don't know, but it's very, unlikely, that they're going to be in favor of this time, and to extend Macky Sall's term for 2 months again is uncertain. And the civil society also, which is very proactive here, after the election, everything, how to call, there's another group also, F24, F24. They have even demonstrated here in the street of Senegal. They are trade unions, I mean, students and other organizations. They are very organized, and they are intensifying the pressure on Macky Sall. So that's why I was saying that yesterday Macky Sall said it in one of the Madam, I'm fed up, really fed up. The escalation is too much. And also the international press has paid. Macky Sall is very, isolated there.
Amadou, relating to what is happening in Senegal, I mean, we have seen ECOWAS and other regional bodies all making statements, I mean, regarding the situation in Senegal. I mean, we all understand the ties between Senegal and France. Has they issued any statement relating to what is happening in Senegal? If yes, what have they said?
France has been, very, I can say, we didn't hear France at the beginning of this issue.
Okay.
It seemed very, strange because, as you said, Senegal is seen here as, a close friend of France in Africa. But France or Emmanuel Macron, France has lost a lot of influence in Africa these last years. You remember what's happening in Niger, in Mali, in Burkina Faso. They were expelled. I mean, their soldiers were expelled from there and replaced by Russian soldiers. And Senegal was seen as, a land of France here. France has a lot of interest in Senegal.
Okay.
I mean, the national, the GSM operator is France Telecom, Canal Plus, that's the TV channel. I mean, even the roads, the pears and oil, everything is, is in the hand of France. So you can imagine France cannot afford those Senegal. Due to what happened, in other countries, France has been, not as expected. I mean, of course, the Kedor said that's the foreign ministry of France. The issue is statement, calling for peace resolution, for dialogue, and but but like Emmanuel Macron, he hasn't expressed openly his view on what's going on in Senegal.
Okay.
But similarly, and according to Macky Sall, we had Macky Sall last week during his interview with the media here, when he was asked about his reaction to international, reaction and the international media, the way they are covering this matter, he said it openly that he felt very bad image, that's the international media is distracting from Senegal. He does not exist, and for him, he see that a plotting from international media.
All right.
Describe him as a terror, and he felt very bad.
All right, Mr. Ade, Mr. Dabo and Bank, I mean, I'm just trying to, because we know the ties between Senegal and France. I mean, sure. And in such crisis, you expect a country like France to take a stance and said, okay, this will happen.
Yeah, I mean,
what is the silence there?
The silence is, as has rightly been said, because of what's happening in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, where France, even when this started, before France had even thought of saying anything, people were saying that they were the ones pulling Maki's strings and telling him to stay on. So I think that's the reason why they're being diplomatic. And there's been a bland statement from their foreign ministry just saying that they hope people return to dialogue and respect the constitution. It hasn't been anything more than that. And I don't think they'll go beyond that at this stage, because whatever they say will be perceived by one side or the other as interference, or them being the ones being the puppet masters. So I think they just wanted to keep out of it.
Mr. Dabo?
Make it.
Well, France has its own geopolitical considerations. Senegal is important. Africa is becoming more important. So obviously, it's a battleground for the global powers. And France is one of those global powers. It used to be a colonial master too. So obviously, it is losing its foothold in a lot of African countries. And that, of course, is likely due to France's own policies as far as Africa is concerned. But obviously, you don't want to lose country after country. They know that Macky Sall's sun has set. There is no doubt about that. There is no point. These are rational actors when it comes to international affairs. They have no emotions or anything like that. It's just the interest of France that at the end of the day would lead them to wherever they want to travel to. And so right now, they know that Macky Sall's sun has set. There is no need losing the friendship of Senegal over one person who is effectively out of power. Macky Sall is just a caretaker now.
So what is it there that we should learn when we're making laws? I mean, this law that is targeting Karim came into being when his father was the president. What is it that we should learn when we are making laws?
Well, laws should be neutral, especially the constitution. Yes, I like the Senegalese constitution. It's a very short constitution compared to our humongous
When I told somebody, they didn't believe me, and I had to print it off for them and show it how short it is compared to
It's
Gambia's.
31 pages. I spoke to Dr. Ibrahim Sise out of the United Kingdom, and he sent me the Senegalese constitution, and I was shocked. 31 pages. Gambia over 200 pages. The draft constitution even longer than the 1997. You see, that's not good, because there are several traps in the constitution that nobody keeps track of. The Ministry of Justice doesn't keep track of the laws. Yeah, it is proposing bills that within them have conflicts. Say, for example, the judges' remuneration bill. It has a constitutional issue. I did mention that to the Attorney General. He was not happy about it. Right. But obviously, it has an issue. Judges are termed as civil servants. So if they are civil servants, you need to rectify that in the Constitution before you bring in something else. If you want to take them, I believe they should be taken out of the civil service category. The public servant category, they should be taken out of that. But as long as they are civil servants, you have implications for retirement and other things. You have implications for a lot of things. Yeah. If you want to create a separate pension package for them, then there are incapacities in the Constitution that you need to take care of before you do things like that.
Interesting. I'm being told we're running out of time. Let me just bring in Mr. Banker here. I mean, the issue of France and all what is happening in Senegal. Do you think France is trying to be very careful? Now they have lost Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, and perhaps saying, oh, we cannot afford to lose Senegal. So let's just hold on. Or is it also because, okay, they seem to be more comfortable with Macky being in power than maybe having Sonko?
No, I mean, I know France is very comfortable with Macky. Macky is their darling.
Okay.
No doubt about that. But this issue of interference, that label, is something that has followed France everywhere they go.
Okay.
So, and they are very careful with it now. They don't want to be seen as interfering in their colonies or former colonies. France, I mean, it's a very sensitive issue now because what they've come to notice is that everywhere they seem to look like they're asserting themselves or looking like they're interfering or what have you, has somehow become a pretext for the kind of military coups and instability that we have seen in Burkina Faso. All of them really, they all have these French, anti-French grievances. Exactly. And it all has to do with quote-unquote French interference. And even in Senegal, Sonko, that is running on that platform, anti-French platform. So I think the French are very, very careful not to look like they're interfering anymore. It's not just Senegal, but we in Ivory Coast and all these other countries, they tend to take a seat back and not say anything, not get involved in anything, just kind of if they are going to do anything, it's going to be on the low, not look like they are taking a central role or participating in any this or any that. So that has everything to do with France's actions. Approach to this. They are very, very cautious about this interference business because it has come to now be a rallying cry, if you will, for those who want to take power in these French countries. If you look at it, Mali, I mean, they were literally burning French flags. Burkina Faso, they were burning French flags.
Niger.
So it kind of their flag became a symbol of the coup was necessary because we need to unshackle ourselves from French colonialism. And they sing that song everywhere they go. So the French finally are saying, now let's just take a step back and not get involved in these folks, their business, because we don't want to be seen like we are interfering, because anytime that happens, then people can use that as a pretext for the kind of military takeover that we are seeing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bankamane. The conversation is quite interesting, but I'm told time is up. Thank you so much, Bankamane, an activist and social commentator. It was good to have you in the program. Mr. Ade Drame, journalist and head of QTV News Department. Good to have you in the program. And of course, Lamin J. Dabo, a lawyer. It was good to have you in the program. And my colleague, Amadou Barry, live from Dakar, thank you so much for joining us once again. And we hope to have you in our subsequent editions as we continue to discuss the current situation in Senegal, Amadou. Well, viewers, with that, we bring an end to this special edition. Next time, until then, bye-bye from me and the entire production team. Good night.